When NASA's Perseverance rover sent back its latest batch of sky images from Mars, no one expected to find anything unusual. But buried among hundreds of frames was one that changed everything. A faint green-tinted blur streaking across the Martian sky. At first glance, it looked like a trick of light or cosmic interference, but its trajectory, velocity, and shape matched something astronomers had been tracking for months. 3I Atlas, the mysterious interstellar object that entered our solar system earlier this year. What the rover captured wasn't just the first close image of the object. It was evidence that sunlight behaves differently around it. The light doesn't scatter. It bends, it twists, it obeys something else. And what the scientists found next was far more terrifying than anyone imagined. The image was taken by the Mastcam Z camera aboard Perseverance, designed to study dust and atmospheric changes on Mars. But what it revealed was something beyond atmospheric. When scientists enhanced the frame, they saw a faint needle-like silhouette shimmering in the Martian sky, an object moving at over 200,000 pounds-per-inch, far faster than any known comet or asteroid near Mars. The glow surrounding it wasn't uniform. It pulsed, shifting between green and white with sections flickering like plasma. The light around 3I Atlas didn't behave like sunlight reflecting off ice or rock. It refracted, splitting into chaotic vectors that scientists described as optical turbulence in vacuum. In simpler terms, space itself seemed to distort around it. The tail was nearly invisible, forming a razor-thin thread pointed toward the sun, not away from it. That's the opposite of how all comets behave. Within hours of its detection, every Mars orbiter MRO TGO Maven turned its instruments toward the same coordinates. And what they found would break everything we thought we knew about interstellar visitors. Light around 3I Atlas does something no one has ever seen. Normally, sunlight scattered by dust or ice becomes polarized. Its waves align in predictable patterns depending on the material's structure. But when scientists measured the light from 3I Atlas, it didn't align at all. It twisted in the opposite direction, producing an extreme negative polarization stronger than any comet ever observed. That means the particles surrounding it are made of materials unknown to our solar system. Irregular, dense, maybe even metallic. The object's surface, when reconstructed from spectroscopic data, showed unusual reflectivity in the infrared range, suggesting that it wasn't coated in ice, but in something reflective and structured. Nickel traces were detected, but water, the key ingredient of all comets, was almost non-existent. And yet, despite the massive amount of gas escaping from it, the object's trajectory didn't shift even a fraction of a degree. By all logic, it should have veered off course like a rocket losing thrust. But it didn't. It stayed perfectly stable, as if it were correcting itself. During the days surrounding 3I Atlas's closest pass by Mars, Perseverance recorded sudden violent changes in the Martian atmosphere. Dust devils multiplied, magnetic sensors spiked, and the pressure fluctuated in intervals exactly every 21 seconds. A dust storm formed on the horizon, seemingly pulled by something moving above the atmosphere. When the images were examined, scientists realized the pulses in pressure matched the light variations emitted by the object itself. Mars, it seemed, was responding to 3I Atlas's presence. At the same time, data from the trace gas orbiter showed a sharp, momentary rise in methane, a gas that usually appears briefly and mysteriously on Mars before disappearing again. But this time the increase wasn't local. It was planetary. Something in the sky had triggered a chemical reaction in the Martian atmosphere. The correlation was undeniable, but the cause was incomprehensible. Whatever 3I Atlas was doing, it was interacting directly with the planet. When astronomers reconstructed 3I Atlas's orbit backward through the solar system, what they found left them speechless. The object's entry path wasn't random. It aligned almost perfectly with the ecliptic plane, the flat disk where every planet orbits the Sun, within only 5 degrees. That might sound insignificant, but for an interstellar object traveling from deep space, it's statistically impossible. And even more chilling, its inbound direction pointed within 9 degrees of the legendary WOW signal detected in 1977, the one thought to possibly originate from extraterrestrial intelligence. The odds of that alignment being coincidental are less than 1%. For Harvard's Avi Loeb, this was the final anomaly he couldn't ignore. He categorized the object's mysteries into two groups, those that might eventually be explained, and those that likely never will. Its impossible polarization, its anti-tail pointing toward the sun, its stable trajectory despite massive gas loss, its metallic composition, and now its arrival direction matching the wow. Signal. None of these could be reconciled with natural physics. And for the first time in decades, scientists began whispering something forbidden. What if 3I Atlas isn't a comet at all, but a probe? As 3I Atlas drifted farther from Mars, the James Webb Space Telescope locked its focus on the object, pushing its instruments to their limits. At first, the data seemed ordinary, the same faint spectrum of reflected sunlight it had shown before. But then, over the course of 2 hours, Webb's spectrometers recorded something unprecedented. The object's light signature began to change. The wavelength of its emissions narrowed, not randomly but rhythmically. In intervals of exactly 21.9 seconds, the same pulse detected by the Mars orbiters days earlier. The energy spikes were too regular to be caused by rotation or solar interference. They were controlled, repeating, deliberate. Even more unsettling, each burst contained minor fluctuations, variations that, when converted into binary, formed structured patterns. NASA's Deep Space Network began cross-referencing the data, suspecting interference. But when those binary fluctuations were mapped visually, they produced a repeating 6-point geometry, a hexagonal lattice identical to the pattern once detected within Saturn's North Pole, but far more precise, almost engineered. The signal wasn't chaotic cosmic noise. It was organized, as if 3I Atlas was transmitting something not outward, but back toward the solar system. When Webb traced the emissions trajectory, the data pointed to a chilling conclusion. The pulses weren't escaping into deep space. They were bouncing off Mars. Soon after the reflection was confirmed, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter detected faint electromagnetic distortions over the planet's northern hemisphere, disturbances strong enough to interfere with communications for nearly 12 minutes. At first, engineers thought it was solar wind interference, but Maven's instruments told another story. The fluctuations didn't match solar activity. They originated below Mars's surface. A low-frequency hum was rising from within the planet itself, perfectly synchronized with the 21.9-second cycle coming from 3I Atlas. When the data was processed, it showed 3 distinct nodes of activity beneath the crust, aligned along a straight line, one near Olympus Mons, one beneath the equator, and one at the polar cap. The alignment matched the same geometry Webb had detected within the object's emissions. Somehow the resonance from 3I Atlas had reached Mars and triggered a planetary response. The hum was faint but growing, spreading across the crust in expanding waves, altering the planet's magnetosphere and ionosphere simultaneously. For the first time in recorded history, Mars was vibrating, a rhythmic planetary heartbeat echoing the same signature as the interstellar object that had just passed by. And when Webb pointed its mirrors back toward the red planet, the telescope captured a faint shimmer across its upper atmosphere. Not light, but motion. Something invisible was moving across the sky, following the same trajectory 3I Atlas had taken only days before. In the weeks that followed, the hum beneath Mars did not fade. Instead, it stabilized, a constant rhythmic pulse that repeated every 21.9 seconds, like a mechanical heartbeat echoing through the planet's crust. NASA called it a subsurface electromagnetic anomaly, but privately, the agency knew this was no geological process. The pulse wasn't spreading randomly, it was coordinated. Each vibration corresponded perfectly with energy spikes detected in Mars's magnetic field, forming an expanding pattern that now encircled the entire planet. For the first time in human history, a world without life seemed to have developed something resembling one. A pulse, a frequency, a rhythm. The James Webb Telescope remained locked on Mars, tracking even the faintest thermal changes. Then, late one night, it detected something that silenced every console in the control room. For 3 full minutes, the planet's entire surface temperature shifted, not gradually but all at once. Every crater, every rock, every polar ridge began radiating in near-perfect unison, glowing faintly in the same green wavelength once seen around 3I Atlas. The emission was not bright enough to be visible to the naked eye, but to Webb's sensors, Mars appeared to be shimmering, breathing, alive.